Why is it that if you try to write off an overdrawn direct loan account just before going into insolvent liquidation, that strategy is destined to fail? Well, it's not simply because, as I often say in these videos, because it's an asset of the company and the liquidator has a duty to recover it and all that. Now, that's absolutely correct and absolutely true, but there's a more fundamental question here, which is that you've got an overdrawn direct loan account. At the date of liquidation, the company, in the case of an insolvent liquidation, will not necessarily have been insolvent just at that date. It would have been insolvent over a gradual period building up to liquidation. It's certainly not the case. We sometimes see this in directors' questionnaires where they say to us when the company was insolvent, they say at the date of liquidation, and this is not what happens in reality. In reality, what actually happens is companies gradually go into insolvent liquidation, unless, of course, you've got to change the legislation and you've got a situation where a whole industry, if you like, is taken out of the economy for various different reasons. But as a general rule, companies do not go into liquidation just at the drop of a hat. It's a process. Insolvency is a process, and it tends to progressively get worse as a company that needs to go into insolvent liquidation. Now, getting back to the question of the overdrawn director's loan account, when a company is insolvent, which it will be just before going into liquidation, the problem is you cannot take the assets of the company, bearing in mind that there's a creditor duty at this particular point in time. The directors have got a paramount duty to the creditors, not to the shareholders of the company. So you cannot take a company asset. Doesn't matter whether it's a Lamborghini on the balance sheet. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, overdrawn director's loan account is just another asset. So you cannot take that out of the balance sheet by doing a write-off when a company is insolvent, because that would not be in the interest of the creditor. It may very well be in the interest of the director personally, but that's not the point. The director owes duties to the company to act in the best interest of the company at all times, not simply when the going is good. They've got to act when the going's bad as well. At all times, their fiduciary duty is to act in the best interest of the company. The duty of loyalty is to the company. So what you cannot do, because it would effectively amount to a transaction under value, which would be in breach of Section 238 of the Insolvency Act 1986, and the liquidator can set the transaction aside, you cannot make an overdrawn direct loan account evaporate just before liquidation. Is simply not possible. Whether you show it as an asset on the statement of affairs is another matter. It should be done, but if you've written it off before liquidation or just before liquidation, then that could amount to a transaction under value. It depends on the mechanism you've used to attempt to write it off. But that write-off is destined in most cases to fail. It will obviously depend on the facts of the case, but generally speaking, it's just not going to work. So questions, queries, concerns, give us a shout. We know insolvency inside out.